I want you to tell them it wasn't always this way. I want you to tell them there was a time when our family was in trouble. I had lost my job. Somebody knows what I'm talking about. I had gotten the pink slip. Didn't know where the next bill money was going to come from. Didn't know how we were going to have Christmas. Didn't know how we were going to make a way. Didn't know how we were going to keep the lights on. But somehow, just in the nick of time, anybody know what I'm talking about? Jehovah Jireh, He provided. You tell your children the story. Because what happens is if you hadn't been through nothing, you don't appreciate adequately what you have if you have ever not had. I'm so blessed. But I want to take time to tell my children. There was a time when I had a couch and I was living by myself in Cleveland, Tennessee, and I had one piece of furniture in that apartment. It was the couch. As an evangelist, a single evangelist, I couldn't afford nothing else. And before I had the couch, I slept on a sleeping bag. So now when you sit down, my children, wherever you are, and you throw your feet on that nice coffee table and you kick back, you be sure you tell them, you're not just blessed because Daddy worked hard. You're blessed because Daddy was a tither. You're blessed because Daddy sowed seeds. You're blessed because Daddy and Daddy's daddy before him, Billy, and my dad and his dad, they started a generational blessing. My children will never know poverty. I have forever broken poverty off my family. And it's not because of me. Jehovah Jireh is my family provider. I have an uncle sitting on the second row, Tony. Tony, raise your hand, please. Tony remembers when at his church in Middlesex, North Carolina, a young struggling evangelist who had won a full scholarship on the saxophone. My other brother Richie was in college at Lee College, and Dad was on a pastor's salary, and he couldn't afford to help us and keep the rest of the family going and all that. And God helped me to get a scholarship, but I had an atheist professor who absolutely hated for me to ever say anything about the Lord. And he kind of got a grudge after me, I believe. To make a long story short, he said, if you don't get a better saxophone, I'd get up in a concert. I played sax, and I'd get up and start playing, and I'm not joking, the pads would fall out and roll across the platform. I'd have to kind of chase them. I'd use bubble gum, I'd use chewing gum, Scotch tape. I'd do anything I had to do to keep those. And there's so many, if you know anything about a sax, there's so many little pieces to it. I didn't have the money. My daddy was preaching at the Middlesex Church of God. I had not yet accepted the call to preach. I was feeling it, but I wouldn't tell anybody. Billy Franklin, my dad, who's gone on to be with the Lord, stood up and preached that morning. My God, he preached. And then the altar call got to going, and I was sitting on the side playing my saxophone with the piano player. And they started singing, there's power, wonder-working power in the blood of the Lamb. And I closed my eyes, and I had a deadline. That professor said, if you don't get a new sax by this date, I'm going to pull your scholarship. And I sat there and I began to play that horn, and my mind all the way through that service was worrying about that horn. And you know, something about getting lost in worship. All your problems become minute, and God becomes... That's why the Bible said, magnify the Lord. See, it's not that God is God is all that he's going to ever be, but you can't necessarily see it. Sometimes you have to take a magnifying glass, and you know, if you take a telescope and prop it up and look at Saturn, you don't see with the naked eye the ring, but if you get it's there, but you don't see it. And I knew that God was God, but I didn't see that God was Jehovah Jireh, my provider. But as I began to worship him, I propped the telescope up, and you magnify the Lord. He's not just Redeemer, he's provider. And I started playing, and I don't know, I got lost. And I'm telling you, the Lord hit that little country church. Tears were streaming down my face. The old pastor got up, I believe his name was Brown, got up and said, I don't know a lot of things, but he said, I know when God speaks to me. And he said, God told me to take up an offering for that young boy. And he said, this is what he said. He said, God told me he needs a new saxophone. They took up an offering, got enough money for me to fly to New York City, walk in the most prestigious music store in the Big Apple, buy the best, not second class. He's Jehovah Jireh. He's the one that provides, and he provides his best. Been playing it ever since. Got so many now, people give them to me. Got 3 of them just sitting around. Because he gives good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over. And children, the same God of the Hebrews is our God. He'll pay for your college. He'll help you get a loan. He'll help you get a house. He'll help you get a car. He'll finance your dream. I want somebody who knows God has been actively involved in the finances of your family. Give God a praise. And as you praise him now, he's going to move again in the next generation. No, we got to praise him right there. I feel the Lord in this place. I feel the Lord saying, see, we need to rehearse. You see this camera right here? You ain't going nowhere. I have in my office down the road, the other building, a $1,000 bill framed and up on the wall. And it represents a tremendous time in my life when I walked into this building and it was unfinished. And we had a camera that we brought in. And I said, as we were getting close to finishing up, we needed $1,300,000 for TV equipment. And we had none. Zero. And I got up and I just shared about the power of an unforgettable dream. And that week, a 70-year-old woman sent me a $1,000 bill. I have never seen a $1,000 bill. And she said, God told me to tell you, young man, to hold on to this $1,000 bill because there's 129 more on the way. In 4 weeks, over $1.3 million came in to buy the best that is out there in TV. Jehovah Jireh. Jehovah Jireh. What are you afraid of? What are you worried about your future for? Why are you shaking at those bills? I've never seen the righteous forsaken.